This is WalcomS7. You remember how back in the day you would go out and buy a mag strike and there would be 2 mag strike clips in the box? That was pretty important because at the time the mag strike was the only blaster that really used the mag strike clip. In fact, it still is the only blaster that does, as its predecessor, the power clip, didn't have an external magazine that you could replace. Now, at the time, swappable magazines weren't all that common in NERF, and that made the mag strike instantly popular. Not only could you freshly replace a depleted magazine with a fresh one, but you had 2 on top of that. So if you had 2 fully loaded magazines and you emptied one, you popped it out, replaced it with a full one, and now your empty one that you have as a spare can be filled up without having to, make your blaster useless while you fill it up. Very, very important, and it made the mag strike a glorious blaster of the past. And then we had stuff like the Centurion, the first Mega Blaster we ever got, and it had the crazy cool N-Strike Nerf clip system but for Megas because that was really popular at the time. Virtually every blaster used an external magazine that you could pop in and out of it. And yet, not only did the Centurion fail horribly, but it never had any extra magazines you could purchase, and it was the only Mega Blaster that ever used magazines. Meaning if you found let's say a Centurion without the clip, you were frickin' screwed. There was nothing you could do about it except for try to buy an expensive third-party one from China that only recently surfaced. Big issue, huge issue, and yet I'm not even getting to the real point of this entire video, which is the RIVAL KHAOS and its 40-round magazine. Now, for some reason you didn't already know this, the RIVAL Apollo and Zeus came out last year. The RIVAL Apollo used a 7-round magazine, but it could also use the 12-dart magazines, and the 12-dart magazines are what they sold in stores. On top of that, the Zeus used the 12-rounders, and of course, was right next to the 12-round magazines in stores. Very important. And now they have the Atlas, which uses the 12-round magazines, good going, and then they have the KHAOS, which uses a 40-dart magazine that, let's face it, you aren't going to be able to buy separately in a store. They're not going to put out a whole box and packaging and shelving space for one clip that you can only use with one blaster. That is horrible business practice, and of course it's never going to happen. So where does that leave you if you went out and spent this $70 on a RIVAL KHAOS? Well, you're gonna fill up your magazine with a 40 included high impact rounds, you're gonna full auto its load all over your opponents, and then you're gonna sit on your knees for 3 minutes while you fill the magazine back up. Good frickin' going, Hasbro. And of course, you have a small chance that maybe Hasbro will sell the clips online on Amazon for a reasonable price. But let's face it, it's probably not going to happen. What would be a really easy way to fix this problem? Well, you could just, put another magazine in the box. Holy crap, then you have 2, and if somebody goes out and spends $70 or maybe $75, $80, I don't know, on a frickin' Nerf gun, they can at least get an entire ecosystem with it. You don't have kids that are buying this thing going, oh my gosh, it's so cool, and unloading their entire 40-round magazine, and then having to spend not a lot of fun time filling it back up. They could easily swap it and get back into the fight, and that's going to be really important for any kind of Nerf war, because as it stands, at launch, the KHAOS is not going to be a war-worthy blaster no matter how badly you want it to be one. Cool thing about paintballs and stuff like that is that they generally use hoppers, and hoppers can not only be completely replaced if you so choose, they can normally just be pulled off and replaced, but they have a big huge door on them where you can just dump new rounds in. And I know the RIVAL round is meant to combat paintball, so why has this not been adapted into the RIVAL system yet? We've got people like Out of Darts making these insane RIVAL Zeuses with 500 round capacities because they use a big backpack full of RIVAL rounds, and yet Hasbro apparently has not realized the problem yet. They want to appeal to bigger kids, they definitely want to appeal to a lot of people as possible, and not many people are really going to take to a blaster that, even if it functions fine, you can't get replacement magazines for when it's a magazine-fed blaster. Had it been something like a paintball marker and had a hopper on it that you could easily reload while on the run by just throwing rounds in it, That would be great, but that's not going to be the case with the Chaos, and that is going to be the crutch. I know that it's going to be expensive to have another clip in there. It's full of springs, and it's got, you know, clear plastic, which isn't cheap, and another 40 high-impact rounds, but when you have a price point at $70, people expect more. I mean, the Rhino Fire was $80, came with two 25-round magazine drums, and on top of that, 50 darts. I mean, there's something's gotta give here, guys. You gotta give people more with this thing, or else it's not going to succeed. It's already hard enough to justify that $70, but any smart consumer is gonna look at that and go, oh, well, it doesn't come with an extra magazine, and I don't see any extra ones on the shelf, so I'm screwed if I use this thing. I'm gonna have to pull the magazine out and sit there for minutes at a time, refilling it back up every time I use it. Nobody wants to do that. That's why the N-Strike system has been so frickin' popular with its replaceable magazines. That's why the Mega series started with a replaceable magazine, and that's why the Rival series started with a replaceable magazine. That's what people want, and you gotta give it to them. I know I'm not a big channel, I don't have very much clout like the big guys, but seriously, if you agree with me, go ahead and like the video, share it if possible, that really helps get the word out. But if you disagree with me, go ahead and hit the downvote button, but please tell me why in the comment boxes below. This has been WalcomS7, and I hope to see you in a different video.